The following program contains scenes and language of a frank and explicit nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello and welcome to Filmjitsu, the podcast that wields films like deadly weapons. We are your hosts. I am Mike.
And I am Jay.
On this week's episode of Filmjitsu, Jason had to watch From Justin to Kelly.
Yeah.
That's right. From Justin to Kelly. Yeah. We're also going to go ahead and do our bottom 5 parties because as best I could tell, maybe there were some parties in this movie. That is almost the extent of everything I know about it. Directed by Robert Iskov, a guy who I cannot wait to talk a little bit more about. And I gotta say, Jay, oftentimes we have these great big lead-ins to the movie.
Yeah.
This big explanation, the how, the what, the why, and we often like to sort of tee the other one up with maybe a question to carry into their review. Well, sir, in this case, I was just being a dick. Really, this whole thing is just kind of a big fuck you. So why don't we go ahead and roll the trailer?
On June 20th,
come with us to Miami. It's not my scene.
Music will bring two strangers together.
Hey, they go from the beach.
And nothing can come between them.
I'm gonna ask her out again.
Except all their friends.
So what does a girl need to do to get you?
There are a million hot girls here, and you're still talking about the one girl who blew you off.
Kelly Clarkson.
I should take a chance.
Justin Guarini.
This girl is special.
In the musical event of the summer. From Justin to Kelly. Rated PG. June 20th, only in theaters.
Can I ask what I did to earn this? Was there like a particular thing? Or
this is honestly a devil of your own making. This never would have happened. But, sir, loose lips sink ships, as the saying goes. And as I pointed out in our last episode, you balked a little while back and panicked when you thought I was giving you From Justin to Kelly, which just flung the doors wide open for this episode. So don't look at me, sir. You are a man in the mirror situation here for this episode. You have nobody to blame but yourself. We're not going to spend the whole time blaming me, but I do want to hear what this experience was like for you, because I honestly can't think of a movie that is less Jason Santo than this thing.
Or Bratz, maybe, which this is a cousin to, I feel. Because if you think about it, there's nothing so overtly commercial ever in the history of cinema, even including movies that are based on toys like Bratz or any of those 80s movies like G.I. Joe and Transformers, all those. There's nothing that's ever been made for such a commercial reason that's just so vapid. It's so empty. So I think you have to go into this understanding why it exists. And for those not in the know, Kelly Clarkson, multi-platinum recording artist and talk show host, got her start by winning the very first season of American Idol in 2002. And she did this by beating out a guy named Justin Guarini, who most certainly did not go on to become a multi-platinum recording artist nor a talk show host. This movie that he and Kelly Clarkson were contractually obligated to make because they won American Idol is a shockingly juvenile cash grab that backfired so hard that it canceled a whole slate of planned 20th Century Fox American Idol releases. From Ruben to Clay, you were a dream too precious.
Wait, is that real? That has to be real.
Ruben stuttered. They were going to make more movies. So Ruben stuttered and Clay Aiken they were going to make more. I don't think they were going to call it From Ruben to Clay, but that's...
I realize that this episode has taken us so far off the deep end that I can no longer distinguish reality from fiction. So you're going to tell me things about this movie and I'm going to have no idea if it's real or not.
Well, I'll tell you, IMDb gives you this really dumb summary, which makes me think that possibly...
A dummery. It's a dummery. We're going to call that a dummery.
It made me think that I'm possibly the only person ever in the history of all time to have watched the movie outside of maybe the filmmakers. The capsule summary says something like a waitress from Texas and a college student from Pennsylvania meet during spring break in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and come together through their shared love of singing. That last part, through their shared love of singing, is what's wrong. Because this is a musical and no one acknowledges here that they're singing.
Oh, really? I was kind of excited to find out this part of it because I knew it must be full of singing, but I wasn't sure if it was a musical or not. And I know how much you hate them.
Yes. So once again, you've stuck me with another fucking musical.
I didn't mean to.
Yeah, well, what's funny about this one is Clarkson sort of starts out as a singer. She's in this podunk Texas town. She's singing to an empty bar that she waitresses at. The only guy there that's listening to her is a dude she's friend-zoned 20 times named Luke. Like, she just has nothing going. And then her friends decide that they want her to go to spring break with them. And her friends are just the usual kind of cookie-cutter characters. You got the intelligent one who's named Kaya. And then you've got the party girl. Her name's Alexa. And you know what you're in for right away because the movie's called From Justin to Kelly. You're in this zippy, kind of poorly edited montage sequence with the titles pasted on everything, billboard signs and freeway signs and like towels on the beach and luggage. It's so dumb. And then you cut to the beach and there's Justin and his buddy Brandon and their buddy Eddie. So Justin and Brandon run a successful party business. I don't know where this exists, where this is actually a thing, but they do things like whipped cream bikini contests and make money.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's
so of
the
course.
Dream. That's
I mean, that is
American
the dream, right? Of course. And
okay.
Eddie, who does not look like a guy they would hang out with, and who is a nerd because obviously he wears glasses and talks about things like cyber chat.
Oh boy. Welcome to 2003, my friend.
Eddie's actually down there to meet a girl that he met through cyber chat that's coming to Fort Lauderdale to meet him.
So she looks like me, I assume.
It takes you a while to find out because that plot line, which honestly anchored me more than just about anything else in the movie, that plot line finds Eddie constantly through various shenanigans, always missing his scheduled meeting with this girl. So not original, but at least somewhat more interesting than the rest of this thing. So at first, there's a lot of dialogue, and you think this is just a normal movie. And then once they're all on the beach, someone just starts singing, and all of a sudden it's just this big song and dance number. Men are swooning with girls, whatever. They're all doing dances and whatnot. And Justin ends up dancing with Kelly very briefly, and then they're off. They're separated. They're gone. There really was nothing there. There was no spark. There was no pause. There was no interest, nothing. So I couldn't decide if it was like brilliant subversion of expectations or if it was just flat out inept.
I like that you considered that possibility. You're like, is this secretly genius?
And of course it wasn't. It was inept. And I will say the song wasn't bad. It was like a Justin Timberlake throwaway, like that kind of vibe. But the choreography, or no, specifically, it wasn't even the choreography. It was the way the dancing was shot drove me out of my mind, which is funny because you mentioned the director, Robert Isgrove. He actually is a choreographer as well. He didn't do the choreography on this film, but he is a choreographer. What I can't understand is why he shot these sequences the way he did. I'm actually a pretty big fan of dance sequences. Think like the 1941, the dance hall sequence in that, or the dance competition in Greece. Like, I love those. If they get the right momentum and the right moves and the shots are right, they can be really energetic. Yeah, and the choreography here was pretty energetic in this opening sequence. And I started thinking, is this going to pull some sort of weird upset? Am I going to be the one person on earth that likes this movie? But they only had on this beach of about, I don't know, maybe there were 60 people in the shot, right? Maybe 15 of them were dancing in sync. And the rest were all sort of around the periphery doing whatever they want, not quite to the beat. And it was embarrassing to watch. and maybe I missed something, but right after this sequence, Justin starts talking about Kelly to Brandon and Eddie, his friends, and Kelly starts showing interest by talking about Justin to Kaya and Alexa, and Kaya's all like, go for it, girl. And Alexa, for some reason, is immediately against Kelly liking him because reasons. So, and we'll get into this because there's a whole thing. We're going to take our time with this, Mike.
I'm here for it.
Moments later, we're in another beach party sequence, and Justin dreamily searches the crowd for Kelly while singing. And then Kelly is also searching the crowd looking for Justin. And I'm not going to lie, I kind of like what they did here where they pulled back the audio of the crowd and the music that was playing in the ambient way and instead focused on the voices. Because, I mean, you have to admit, Kelly Clarkson's got a great set of pipes. She can really sing.
Oh, of course. Yeah, it's not an accident that she has become a megastar.
Right, exactly. And Guarini actually can really sing. He's got a great voice. And so while I didn't maybe like the song that much, I like the concept of their two voices sort of mingling when they couldn't find each other in this crowd. I have to say, it was a bit of creativity that I did not expect out of from Justin and Kelly.
Is this your new favorite movie? Is it happening again? This is your new favorite movie.
Yes, I'm clearly falling madly in love with this shit pile. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah, our listeners understand that. I mean, it's okay to fall madly in love with a film, Jason, and that's what I'm hearing from you.
Oh, hey, we met at the beach, right?
Yeah, my friends call me Kelly for short.
I'm Justin.
Oh.
Thanks.
So, Justin, do you spend a lot of time in the girls' room?
You know, I just needed to make a quick escape.
Me too. It's total insanity out there. There's even one guy passing out whipped cream bikini contest flyers.
They have no chemistry, Mike. None whatsoever.
Well, I wanted to ask about that because in reality, this big competition show, American Idol, back then it was at the absolute peak of its popularity. Kelly Clarkson, I think, is pretty arguably the biggest star to come out of that show, I think. And these were the final two contestants. You have to wonder if maybe there was some like genuine animosity between these two people in the world. She had just defeated him. And so here he is second fiddle to Kelly Clarkson. And now they have to go pretend to be in love in a movie. It doesn't sound like a recipe for great chemistry to me, but they did it.
Clarkson really didn't want to do this movie. She begged the producers to not have to do the movie because she thought that it should go to someone who wanted to be an actress, which is not something she wanted.
She just won the world's biggest singing competition.
Right.
And like, great. How about you act? It's like,
Yes.
well, what are we doing here?
I will say that Guarini can act. He's quite good. Yeah. And he can dance and he can sing. He's a lot of talent. And the script is really the problem here more than anything else. It's like a goddamn 80s movie, but made 20 years later and afraid to be exploitative, which is hilarious because movies like Hard Bodies, Last Resort, or Blame It on Rio were not watched for their fucking storylines. It's all recycled horseshittery. And the subplots were more interesting, like Kaya gets with this low salaried busboy named Carlos who takes her salsa dancing, and Brandon continuously gets fined for doing stupid shit on the beach by a sexy policewoman. These are the things, along with that Eddie cyber chat storyline, these are the things that are more interesting than bland Bella from Twilight, Kelly falling for. There's this great line in the movie where Luke, the hick from the town, the guy that gets friend zoned, there's this great thing where he describes Justin. He meets him for the first time on the beach and he says to him,
"Why don't you back off, Sideshow Bob?"
Oh, because of the hair. I got you. This is why I love doing this podcast with you, because I can give you the worst movie that the year 2003 had to offer, and you will deeply invest in secondary and tertiary characters in the film. You're like, I want to know the hero's journey for Ed the Nerd. Like, that's amazing to me. Only you do this, and I love it.
I think what's kind of neat about a movie like this is the only place where you're going to have a sequence where two dudes settle a beef with each other about a girl by racing hovercrafts.
Oh, wow. If 2003 were a movie, it would be this.
And honestly, it looked like a lot of fun, to be perfectly frank. So I was kind of like, oh, this is all right. This is kind of neat. It was enjoyable. And that's the thing about this terrible movie, is that a lot of it, while definitely forcing you to roll your eyes and definitely making you wish that you weren't watching it, there's some of it that makes you kind of sit up and go, hey, wait a minute. The whole plot with Alexa, at a certain point, you start to think, is this an 80s villain on par with something that Gary Oldman would have done? Because you begin to hate this woman so much. Justin loses Kelly's number very early on. Alexa gives him her phone number when he asks for Kelly's. And then he keeps texting and calling, leaving messages, and she writes bitchy responses back to him. But then when they see each other, she gets all kind of smoochy and nice. He keeps saying, I felt something with Kelly. I felt something. And that's it. Mike, that's all you get is something. There's never a description as to what connects these two very different people. And Alexa really wants Justin because she says to Kelly, you're just so easily you. You're so genuine. And I'm thinking, this is the most milquetoast human on the planet. It takes no courage to be Kelly. Nothing whatsoever.
Right.
And Alexa's envious of her. It was the dumbest motive possible. And unfortunately, Alexa never really gets her comeuppance. I kind of wanted her to fall out of a plane or...
Yeah.
No, you never quite get that level of satisfaction from...
Break her neck in a whipped cream accident or something?
Yes.
Jason, I think the question that I have, more than anything...
Yeah.
...is who stands to benefit with something like this? Because this movie was obviously a contractual obligation that these actors had as a part of American Idol. So what do you think they were going for here? Was this movie made to enhance the popularity of American Idol? Did they think that because American Idol was so popular, this was going to make a boatload of money?
Yeah, because of the popularity of American Idol. And because it was the two runners up in a romantic comedy musical, they saw the potential for dollars. There was absolutely, just the soundtrack alone, I'm sure they thought was going to make money. It was funny. It bombed so hard that there was no soundtrack ever released. Not only that, this movie at the time set the record from theatrical release to video release. The window, 29 days. And initially, Fox knew they had a dud. Initially, they said to distributors, we're going to do this. We're going to release the movie within a month or so on video after it hits the cinemas. And they said, well, fuck you. We're not going to carry the movie. So Fox said, all right, fine. We'll wait 6 weeks. The movie bombed so hard in its first weekend, they went back to the original plan.
Wow. It is hard then to imagine that just 3 years later, the director of this movie would be making behind the camera the unauthorized story of Different Strokes.
What's more important is we had screenwriter Kim Fuller, whose other biggest credit was 1997's Spice World.
Oh. If
you could guess another movie that was written by the person that wrote From Justin to Kelly, you're going to say Kim Fuller because of Spice World. I mean, it's an absolute given.
I just want to grab my notepad here real quick. Spice World.
Yeah.
Underline, underline, underline.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Proceed.
Go fuck yourself.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Well, from Mike to Jason.
That's what I was looking for.
I want to say thanks for always raising the level of discourse on this show, even when I give you something as just unapproachably bad as From Justin to Kelly.
So, Mike, knowing nothing about From Justin to Kelly, you decided bottom 5 parties, presumably because you must have seen that there was something going on at a beach that resembled a party.
Yeah, like a big beach dance party.
Yeah, so there you go.
Also, bottom 5 Justins seemed hard. So
bottom 5 Kellys.
Also hard.
Yeah, I guess so.
So
there you go.
Bottom 5 parties seem the way to go.
Yeah, that is the way to go. And I've talked too much about too many movies that have terrible parties in them. Like, I've already done this, I feel. Like, if you think Weird Science, which I've talked about so many times, you get that post-apocalyptic bikers that show up, or Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where Grandpa sucks on Sally's finger. You know, these things, or just, you know, never mind Smile, which landed on my bottom 5 presents and my bottom 5 birthdays.
Right,
so
right.
I approached this list with a very specific rule, and that was not to mention any movies I've previously mentioned. And that made it remarkably tough. What about you?
Yeah, somewhat similar to that. I think for me, it was important to distinguish between a party and a gathering. There needed to be some sort of celebration at hand, right? Like a joyous letting loose of merriment and camaraderie, a good time, or at least, you know, intended to be a good time. So not just to get together. So for example, Emma Seligman's Shiva Baby is a bottom 5 gathering. It's a phenomenally funny movie. It's an outstanding comedy. If you haven't seen it, Shiva Baby, it's short, it's funny, it's well acted. Rachel Sennett is fabulous, but these people were sitting Shiva. So this isn't a celebration, right? But it is a gathering. And so that was a distinction for me. I decided to come up with different kinds of parties and find bottom 5 picks to represent each one. So I wanted to find a way to represent, say, the dinner party, the house party, those sorts of things. I also tried, I don't recall if I was successful. We also did bottom 5 birthdays once upon a time. And so I was careful not to have 5 birthday parties.
Exactly.
We've done that.
Yeah.
So that was important for me. But I am curious to hear how you started your list at number 5.
Well, my number 5 is a movie called Neighbors from 1981. And I don't know if I've ever seen a movie as weird or uncomfortable as John G. Avildsen's, quote, comedy. It stars Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi. Essentially, they're playing against type by switching roles, with Belushi playing a nebbish family man named Earl, and Aykroyd playing Earl's new neighbor, the loud and unpredictable Vic. Earl and his bored wife Enid, as well as their teenage daughter Elaine, all live in a quiet cul-de-sac somewhere in suburban, I'm guessing, New Jersey. And that all becomes decidedly less quiet when Vic and his wife Ramona move in next door. Earl, seeing that Ramona is rather attractive, she's played by a positively stunning Kathy Moriarty in her prime. He decides to invite the couple over for a dinner party, and from there, things just get really weird. There's flirting, poorly homemade Italian food that was supposed to be takeout, a car that ends up in a swamp, edible underwear, a fist fight, quicksand, a pimp wagon, a dog getting electrocuted, and much, much more. I've seen this one a few times over the years, and it's wild thinking it's from the same director who did Rocky and The Karate Kid.
Yeah, right. I was like, wait a second.
But he's also the same guy who did Rocky 5 and The Karate Kid Part 3, so I guess there's some precedent for subpar. But that said, I'm not even sure this is subpar. It's an almost hallucinatory flick, comprised of dream logic and over-the-top performances that somehow works despite what's being reported to be a very volatile set, where Aykroyd and Belushi tried multiple times to have Avildsen fired, and writer Larry Gelbart accusing Aykroyd of being a scab for rewriting his script during the 1981 Writers Guild strike. Crazy shit. And oh, does it ever show on screen. So, at number 5, Neighbors.
Wow. Okay, so hold on. Let me just get my notepad out real quick. That's Rocky 5 and Karate, Kid Part 3. Okay, I got it. Excellent. Boy, here we go. You're doing the work for me today.
Well, feed the furnace.
Well, speaking of the furnace, excellent. Thank you. Brilliant segue, Jason. I decided that for my number 5, I wanted to focus on the pool party. That fun in the sun summer bash where you can finally see all the best looking people at school in their skimpiest swimwear, right? Frozen drinks, barbecues, great tunes playing on a boombox. What's not to love? Because that's all hunky dory unless it's Nightmare on Elm Street 2.
Part 2.
And Freddy fucking Krueger shows up, lights your pool on fire, breaks all your cool shit, and slices your friends to ribbons right in front of your dad.
I 100% didn't pick this movie because I knew you were going to pick it.
Wow. Okay. Well, hey, look, I don't care how much free beer there is at a pool party. There is not enough Hawaiian shirts and Jimmy Buffett in the world to unfuck the vibes of a Freddy Krueger pool party. And this is really an important moment in the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise because it's the only time really that Freddy just comes right out of the dream world and is just slashing people up in the real world in front of dozens of people. He's so public. He jumps through the floor like he's some kind of luchador wrestler at SummerSlam, lights everything on fire, is just like flipping shit over just to cause a mess.
It's like Jurassic Park, The Lost World. At the end where the dinosaurs come to like San Diego. It's exactly like that.
Yeah. So that for me is like, that is a bad party. When you have the physical embodiment of a child murdering dream slasher show up at your pool party and fuck shit up, that's a bottom 5.
Indeed. Absolutely great choice. My number 4 is a movie that I find a little unfortunate isn't better known. And that's Coherence from 2013. It's another dinner party, and it goes horrifically wrong, much in the vein of the more known but similarly small in scale Karen Kusama film, The Invitation. So Coherence is a twisty, award-winning sci-fi flick that ratchets up the tension and suspense as it goes deeper into revealing its mystery. The film is centered around several friends who assemble the evening a comet is passing the Earth. While together, the power goes out, cell phone service dies, and a box filled with numbered photos of each of them is discovered on their doorstep.
Oh, weird.
As they strive to figure out who left the photos, they also become acutely aware that they're being watched. So hoping to learn more about what's going on outside, they send 2 of their party out to the only house in the neighborhood that has lights on and discover that other versions of themselves are suffering through the same mysteries and tensions they are.
Oh.
The movie spirals in on itself, but the improvisational style of the filmmaking and the raw, almost amateur performances by its ensemble cast give the thing an edginess that cannot be easily shaken. As far as the parties go, this one, crafted by James Ward Burkett in his directorial debut, is one I'd have skipped just based on who'd be in attendance. Never mind the fact it results in violence and murder.
Wow.
You seem as though maybe you haven't seen it.
No, I haven't. It sounds kind of awesome.
I think you'd really enjoy it. Yeah.
I will have to check it out. I will have to add that title to a very different list. And this is a double duper because you got 2 parties happening in this one, right? The same party happening twice. So this kind of like double sucks. Is that what I'm hearing?
The cool thing about it is at a certain point, the reason that they get paranoid is because they think that one of the people from the other house is with them.
Oh, that's the part that fucks them up? Okay.
No, but I mean, everything's fucking them up. But the level of paranoia they hit when they think that one of them isn't the person they say they are. Yeah.
It
gets really good.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a good flick. And it's neat because James Ward Burkett has like this weird resume where he was like the storyboard artist on a number of Gore Verbinski films. In fact, he actually also lent voices, I think, during Rango, that film Rango that he did. So kind of interesting.
Animated Chinatown?
Yes, exactly.
Wow.
Yes, exactly.
Wow. Okay. That is certainly something. I'm going to go check that out. It sounds like a really great example of a bottom 5 party. My number 4, I decided in this case to represent, of course, the Christmas party.
Of course.
But I'm not talking about what you think. I'm not talking about Griswolds. I'm not talking about Little Ralphie or even Krampus. No, this time it's personal. It's a Christmas party that has sparked the internet's most obnoxious debate. I'm going with the Office Christmas party at Nakatomi Plaza that has spawned 1,000 edgelords to claim that Die Hard is a Christmas movie. Shut up. Go take a flying fuck at a Rolling Donut. It's not clever. It's not funny. It's just stupid contrarian shit just to make guys like me mad. Die Hard is not a Christmas movie, but the party at Nakatomi Plaza gets all these dipshits riled up to claim that every December, Die Hard is my favorite Christmas movie. Shut up. I hope a terrorist falls off a building and lands on your grandma. For just sheer aggravation alone, this one makes my list at number 4.
You know, I love the fact that we're so aligned on this one, that you and I both agree. I kept it off my list, first of all. It is a terrible party. Great to have it on a list. I don't know that we could have gone through 10 movies and not hit on Die Hard. However, the most important thing is we agree Die Hard is not a Christmas movie.
Right.
It should not be considered a Christmas movie. But Die Hard 2 is. No, I'm just fucking with you.
But I most importantly here, I wanted to go sort of outside the movie universe. And it's not about the party itself, which is, of course, a Christmas party that's taken over by terrorists is a bad Christmas party, sure. But that's not my point. Yeah. That's not my point. It's for all the bullshit, Die Hard is my favorite Christmas movie idiocy that this has spawned. That's why it's my number 4.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
My number 3 is Blade from 1998.
Oh, yes.
Yes, the rave sequence at the beginning. It's an awesome scene.
Yeah.
But it is absolutely a party no one would want to attend. It is a grisly scene. And I remember watching it in the theater and positively dreading the predicament the naive partygoer has gotten himself into when he follows Tracy Lords. Yes, the Tracy Lords, here wearing a red wig and looking crazy hot in goth makeup. He follows her through a meat locker and into a techno dance party populated almost entirely by vampires. When the sprinklers start drenching the euphoric revelers in blood, our partygoer suddenly finds himself surrounded by hissing, crimson-coated vamps ready to sink their teeth into him.
Do you know how hard you would have to work to fill your fire suppression system with blood?
I can't even know.
The amount of work that it would take to convert your warehouse fire suppression system to blood is unfathomable. It's ridiculous. I love it.
Yeah, it's actually scary too. I mean, that sequence is a little scary. When they're all coated in blood and they're all beating on him, tenderizing their meat before they set to dine, when suddenly the Daywalker arrives and all hell breaks loose. If you haven't seen Blade in a while or ever, it's definitely worth checking out. Blade 2 gets more of the attention because it was helmed by Guillermo del Toro. And yeah, it's great. But this party scene in the first movie, it'll forever be the one that surprised the hell out of me because I did not expect a comic book movie to go this hard.
You're right. Good Lord. The vampires are going to eat your party. Wow. My number 3 is a lame house party. Movies offer us a lot of house parties. There's a house party franchise. We have things like Superbad and There's lots and lots of examples
Right.
of kids having house parties. Can't hardly wait. We talked about in a previous episode.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to do any of those, like the party got out of hand thing. I think this kind of thing where it's awkward and weird, either you have the party and nobody shows up, or you go to the party and nobody else shows up, or everybody that's there is kind of weird. We've all been to one or two of these in our lives. Well, cinema offers us no better example than poor Louis Tully's house party in Ghostbusters, right?
Oh my God, that's so good. What a great pick.
Oh, it's so lame. He invites all his clients instead of friends, so he can write it all off as a promotional expense. And nobody's dancing, and he keeps trying to get Dana to come. She doesn't want any part of it, and the whole thing is just sort of like, sad and cringy. But at the same time, do not tell me that you wouldn't fucking love to go to a Louis Tully house party, right? Like, right? You'd
Especially
hang.
if there's a dog in the closet.
Oh, you're right. You'd hang. You would hang. So, again, it's a little bit of a best worst, and that for me is why it's at number 3. But I'm going with Louis Tully's clients only party in Ghostbusters.
Do you have any Excedrin or extra strength Tylenol?
Gee, I think all I got is acetylsalicylic acid generic. See, I can get 600 tablets of that for the same price as 300 of a name brand. That makes good financial sense. Good advice. Hey, this is real smoked salmon from Nova Scotia, Canada. $24.95 a pound. It only cost me $14.12 after tax, though.
I'm kind of ashamed of myself that it didn't even occur to me. That one. Die Hard occurred to me. Left it off because I thought you'd have it. Nightmare on Elm Street 2 occurred to me. Left it off because I thought you'd have it. Ghostbusters. Man, you are right. Well, we're at my number 2. And in a way, I find this one sort of a descendant of my number 3. They're both gross techno dance parties. Okay. But whereas Blade had blood, the rave sequence in the Matrix sequel, The Matrix Reloaded, has mud and sweat.
Ooh.
And probably a whole lot of other bodily fluids. I don't think we could do this list without mentioning this dirty and, from a narrative standpoint, completely random rave that happens the night before everyone in the real world underground refuge that is Zion is likely going to be eliminated by the Sentinels. It's a shockingly beige scene that made me yearn more to be a human battery for the machines than any other scene in the series. Just hook me back up to the Matrix because life in Zion looked really, really sweaty and uncomfortable. Apparently, this was Morpheus's way of leading the last vestiges of the human race into prayer by calling on some massive beats and letting everyone get their collective freak on. But all this scantily clad writhing and cave dwelling looks painfully silly when the Wachowskis decide to show high overhead views of the crowds rendered in terrible looking CGI.
I remember that for 100 years we have fought these machines. I remember that for 100 years they have sent their armies to destroy us. And after a century of war, I remember that which matters most. We are still here!
You didn't see it, huh? You haven't seen that one.
I have seen it. Yeah,
you look like.
No, you're totally right.
You looked at me like you were looking at me like, what are you talking about?
I didn't remember the sequence until you mentioned it.
How do you not remember the sequence?
There's a lot of goofy stuff. There's a lot of goofy sequences.
There's nothing that
movies.
Goofy.
But
there's nothing that goofy.
Oh, I was trying to remember a party sequence in a
brown.
Matrix movie. It's very brown. And the thing I remember mostly was like, where are they all going to wash off after this? Like, there's not enough shower facilities in this last vestige of human civilization thing. I was like, there's not soap here. How are you getting all the mud out of those crevices? I don't know.
Additionally, the scene does something else. It distracts from the central love story between Neo and Trinity as the scenes of them making love are intercut with the slow motion slop fest. Mike, I was at Lollapalooza 92 in Mansfield, Massachusetts. I didn't need to see it recreated on film.
Yeah. I think I saw Carrie-Anne Moss at Santa's Village one time.
Yeah?
Yeah. For those of you who aren't around here in New Hampshire, we have a little way up north in the mountains there. We have a little amusement park called Santa's Village. It's a Christmas-themed amusement park that is only open in the summertime. Mick Foley, notably Mankind himself, often frequents Santa's Village, and I am dead-ass positive that I one time saw Carrie-Anne Moss at Santa's Village. There was no mud rave. If there had been, I would have participated, but it's a good pick. Well, I'd like to turn your attention to something that is not gross.
Okay.
And that would be a wedding party. A wedding party is a joyous time, right?
Yeah.
Elegant, beautiful. Very rarely is there mud anywhere. Great food, great drink. Well,
yeah.
Look no further for my number 2 than the Samara weaving vehicle, Ready or Not, from 2019.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, directed by the duo.
In my bottom 5 games.
Matt, that's right. Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillett, who I think can rightfully lay claim to owning mid-2020s horror scene. These guys have done so much and have been so successful in the last handful of years. And this one is no exception. It's about a woman who gathers for a party with her new husband's family. It's the night of her wedding, I think. They've just been married, and she's finally meeting this big, wealthy family for the first time. Only it turns out they're Satanists who have to perform a ritual to appease this curse that they made for their family fortune, where basically they have to play a game, and if they don't kill her by midnight, then they all die. And so what this whole thing becomes is like a dark and stormy night trapped in this great big mansion of this crazy family chasing her down, trying to kill her. And this poor woman who just thought she was at her wedding party having to fight back against her in-laws. It's kind of this like in-laws from hell cliche subversion taken literally. And so you have a bottom 5.
I love how much it really committed to its insane premise by the end of the film. It really goes overboard and it's very satisfying.
Yeah.
That's a great pick, Mike. And you're absolutely right. Wedding party, that works.
Yeah.
We're down to my number 1 here.
Ooh.
And it's Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. From 2022.
This was so close to my list. I felt like my list was being kind of overrun by horror, and this was the one that fell off, but I can't wait to hear you talk about it.
Oh, man. Even before any of the murdery things start happening in Helena Rain's directorial debut, I was already certain this was a party I most definitely would not want to attend. The combination of the grievances held by almost every member of this friend group and then the introduction of some immediately untrustworthy strangers really put me on edge. But they're using an impending hurricane as a reason to hunker down with seemingly limitless amounts of drugs and alcohol.
In this big, crazy house.
Yeah. I guess maybe I'm just too boring or too leery of drama to want to take part in something like this. But then, of course, the lights go out, the Wi-Fi dies, and the party's host, played by the usually unbearable, but here rather funny Pete Davidson, winds up with his throat slashed and, oh boy, we got ourselves a hell party for the ages. Essentially, and then there were none if it were directed as TikTok. This movie is far better than that makes it sound.
Yep.
Thanks to an incredible cast of young actresses, including Amandla Sternberg, Maria Bakalova, and Mihaela Herod.
And the previously mentioned Rachel Sennett, who I wanted to find a way to get into my list with Shiva Baby. It didn't fit. And you, genius that you are, managed to get her in with Bodies, Bodies, Bodies.
If you haven't seen it, I'd check it out. But if I were you, I'd avoid invitations to any hurricane parties and instead board up your windows and stay the fuck home.
Yeah, if we've learned anything, it's a party where you can't leave is not the kind of party you want to be at. You always want to have an exit strategy for a party. Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. presents perhaps no greater argument for that fact.
Well, what's your number one, man?
A cheat. My number one is a cheat because it's
really,
because it's not one movie, it's two. I'm kind of grouping a couple of things together here because, it's Hitchcock's 1948 film Rope is probably the best answer for a bottom five dinner party. A dinner party hosted by two friends, convinced that they've committed the perfect murder. They kill a classmate. They stuff him into a box. They use that box as a table to host a dinner party with the dead guy's family and fiance in attendance. It's a great movie. I think probably like cinema's best example of a bad dinner party as done by the master himself. Definitely a bottom five scenario, but not my official selection for a dinner party. I'm combining it here. I thought of that one and decided I wanted to do something you actually mentioned a little bit earlier. My official pick for a dinner party is Karin Kusama's horror flick, The Invitation.
The Invitation, yeah.
Where a guy gets in. Let's just start with the party before it gets weird,
just
right?
that. Yep, I agree.
A guy gets invited to a dinner party hosted by his ex-wife where shit goes sideways. Spoilers here. It's an awesome movie, so consider pausing and watching the movie if you haven't. But this dinner party is wall-to-wall dread. Like, some shit is gonna go sideways in this thing, but you're not sure when or what. So the whole thing has this dark, moody atmosphere that you could spread with a knife. The guy and his girlfriend go to a dinner party hosted by his ex-wife and her new boyfriend at the house he lost in the divorce. A divorce caused by the death of their son. That's what we find out revealed over the course of this movie. That alone, Jay, is enough to be the number one. That alone. Now, what we find out is that since the death of their son and their divorce, that the ex-wife has fallen in with some sort of grief cult, and they're trying to turn this whole night into some kind of murder, suicide, grief cleanse situation. So bad dinner party. Not a Hitchcock classic, but probably the worst dinner party I can think of outside of that, and it's my number one.
Well, Jesus.
Has he been like this a lot? So agitated? How has he been handling things? He can be self-destructive. I think he's doing the best he can.
Something doesn't feel safe here. We don't see you for 2 years, and then all of a sudden, we get invited to this lavish dinner. Don't tell me that this is normal.
The interesting reason that I didn't choose The Invitation was strictly because Confluence came first. And I actually wondered if somehow whoever wrote The Invitation, I'm not sure if it was Kusama, I think she just directed it, but whoever wrote that film, I wondered if they had seen Coherence ahead of that, because it feels like Coherence is sort of a rough draft and a not as clean version. Like there were similar character dynamics among all of the attendees. There was an ex there. There was a mystery about why they weren't together anymore. There was just this drama that was all in place even before any of the weird shit happened. Of course, The Invitation goes into this sort of cult direction and does all this really, really amazing stuff. And honestly, The Invitation is a better film. But Coherence is fascinating in its own way for the level of tension and drama that it creates.
One of the big differences, I think, between the two you're talking about is this is a movie that manages to stay grounded in reality.
It does.
There is no sort of sci-fi element to it, really.
I think it does go in a bit of a direction by the end of the film. So.
Well, either way, this alongside Rope, I think, is the perfect way to classify a bottom 5 dinner party. I don't want to be at either of those as either a guest or a guest in the table. So that's why that was my number 1 pick.
Amazing choice with Rope, by the way. I mean, that's one that I'm smacking myself for not catching. I should have got that one.
Jason, it is time for Pick 2, Kick 2. That time in the show when we take 4 films or something related and put them together, and you and I have to choose which 2 we're going to keep and which 2 are going to be sent forever into the forbidden zone, never to be seen or heard from again. And so for this episode, as we were talking about From Justin to Kelly, and parties and all of that kind of thing, I decided Kelly Clarkson, of course, is a huge pop star. And so this time I wanted to go with films that have pop stars in them.
Oh boy. Okay.
Now, okay, listen, I'm loosey-goosey with those terms, right? But movies where a main actress or actor is primarily known as a singer. Fair? Okay.
Yeah.
So here we go. Here are your 4 choices.
Okay.
Videodrome and Debbie Harry.
Oh my God.
Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome and Tina Turner. Escape from New York and Isaac Hayes.
Oh yeah.
And this is just like Santo bait. A League of Their Own and Madonna. So is it the movies that we have to deal with? I mean,
yeah, I think more about the movie. I'm not cutting the person.
The rule I'm imposing here is that if you cut the movie, we also lose the person. Meaning, while perhaps A League of Their Own might not have jumped off the page at you specifically, a world in which you also have to lose your beloved Madonna makes it a little bit harder.
Yeah. I wish I were cool enough to say that I was a huge fan of Isaac Hayes' music, but I'm not. So while I adore that film and it would have made my 2, I would have to cut that because I don't know enough Isaac Hayes to really validate me keeping it. So I would have to lose the movie. What's your immediate kick?
I don't have an immediate kick. I have an immediate pick.
Oh, okay. What's your immediate pick?
It's the one that you just let go, Escape from New York.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And not so much for Isaac Hayes. I'm keeping.
It's because of the movie.
Incidentally, but out of these 4 films, I think that's the movie that I couldn't do without.
Yeah, I totally understand where you're going with that because when I was 10 years old, I acted out Snake Plissken adventures with my friends.
Of course you did. Yeah. Who needs Indiana Jones when you have Snake Plissken?
Like I absolutely adored that movie. But here we are with these rules that you've pinned us with. And now I have to really look at who's most valuable. My absolute cannot cut is actually not Madonna. It's Debbie Harry. Because it's a combination of the movie and the person. Debbie Harry, to me, is one of the most incredible looking human beings that ever existed. And the music of Blondie and the film, David Cronenberg's Videodrome, all of that comes together in something that I absolutely could not get rid of.
Okay. All right. So I'm keeping Escape from New York. You're keeping Videodrome. Where are you on a second film?
Well, it ain't Tina Turner. It's not Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome.
Okay.
I like Tina Turner. I like her music. I didn't love that movie. And so it's pretty easy for me to cut that in the face of possibly losing Madonna.
Okay.
So my 2 that I would pick would be A League of Their Own, which I think is a great flick, honestly.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a good movie all by itself, for sure.
Penny Marshall directed that. It's such a nice piece of nostalgia. It wears its heart on its sleeve. It's a very vulnerable picture in many ways. Tom Hanks was terrific in that. It's such a weird, weird supporting role, you know? But you felt for him, even though he was a bit of a jerk. I love that they had this little bit of chemistry that they built between Tom Hanks and Gina Davis, but they never really did anything with it. That stuff is very mature filmmaking, storytelling, and like pop cinema.
Sure.
And Madonna is incidental there, but if we're going to erase Madonna's existence from my life, I can't.
Can't do it.
I just can't do it. So
this is why you ought to own a drive-in theater, because I would absolutely pull my car up for Jason Santos' double feature of Videodrome and A League of Their Own. I cannot think of a Friday night at the drive-in I would rather have than exactly that one. You know what? You've done the thing that sometimes you do. You son of a bitch. You changed my mind. You know what? A League of Their Own. I'm going with A League of Their Own. I don't love Madonna the way that you love Madonna, but you just absolutely sold me on that film in a way that I did not see coming.
You lose a lot of other good performances in that movie. You would lose Gina Davis's wonderful performance. Lori Petty was so great as her little sister. You know, it's one of those movies that it's very, you feel good that you've watched it and you feel good that it exists. Maybe that's not totally true with Videodrome, but I'm a pretty dark motherfucker. And again, no way could I ever cut Debbie Harry from existence. Are you kidding me? Especially red-headed Debbie Harry.
Easy, Santo. Well, as always, we want to know what our listeners think. So please let us know, out of these 4 selections, kick two, pick two, who is going to stay and who is going to forever be cast into the Forbidden Zone. Is it about the film? Is it about the star? Is it both? Let us know. We want to hear what you have to say.
Mike, it's been a good long while, I feel, since we really went cheesy with the Filmjitsu pick, especially with all the garbage, the absolute shite we've been shoveling as summer fare.
Yeah, for sure.
So I want to get us back to basics, back to the good old days of sci-fi adventures that project a faraway future, a time so distant that it's hard for the imagination to fill in the blanks and guess how the world might appear, what great leaps we'll make. So imagine, if you will, it's the faraway year of 1991. There are Mercury Topaz cop cars, a police force that tracks down malfunctioning robots, and one veteran officer with a mustache so iconic that it breaks space-time. That man, Tom Selleck. The film, 1984's Runaway. If you don't know of it, you're going to be shocked who directed it, and even more shocked by who plays the villain. But I'm going to keep all that a surprise. And for now, I'm going to leave you with this. The movie is chock full of 2 of your least favorite things combined: robots and spiders.
Oh, no.
Mike, you gave me From Justin to Kelly. I give you Runaway.
Okay. You are really taking us back to our roots here. Correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't seen it. I know that it exists. Is Gene Simmons in this movie?
I don't know. We're just going to have to wait till next time to find out. Just going to have to wait and see.
Something else. You know what? It might be robots, spiders, and Gene Simmons. Oh, okay.
And for our bottom 5,
wow,
we're going to be doing bottom 5 mustaches in celebration of Tom Selleck's masterful upper lip.
Okay.
So we'll have to list off those who went stash and embarrassed themselves horribly in the process. And yes, fake stashes are legal and can be counted as well.
Okay. All right. Wow. Bottom 5 stashes? I didn't see that coming. I got to tell you. 1,000 years, 1,000 guesses. I don't think I would have come up with bottom 5 mustaches.
So for our next episode, Mike will be facing killer robot spiders and presumably...
Wait, the spiders are robots? The spiders
Jesus, do you
are
even
robots.
listen to me while I talk?
You said robots and spiders. I didn't know they were the same thing.
They're the same thing.
Oh my God, this is going to be terrible.
Michael will be reporting from a padded cell where he can spend plenty of time thinking about the worst mustaches in cinema. But until then, I've been your host, Jay, and
I am Mike.
And we'll see you next time.
Stalno mislim na te, hoću znat sve kate, vježbat ću sate i sate. Karate, vježbat ću dok zadnji mi kjaj zostane izađe.
Yeah, you had to write notes for Justin and Kelly. Oh, man.